Well, the Democrats have let one of their wildebeests out of his cage again. Old Maxine Waters here has decided to come out again and talk about stuff based on rumors and BS. This woman never checks into facts and never tries to confirm the things that she ends up speaking on, and it makes her look stupid. She did it about the Trump collusion stuff, which was proven that was just the opposite of that. Here she is again now, pointing at us. This is who she's talking about. Keep this in mind when you listen to this.
This is a man who we better be careful about. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the Justice Department and I'm going to ask the president to tell us what they're going to do to protect this country against violence if he loses. I want to know about all of those right-wing organizations that he's connected with, who are training up in the hills somewhere and targeting, what communities they're going to attack.
First of all, Maxine Waters, for any of you flat earthers that might be watching out there, Maxine Waters is proof that gravity does in fact exist. But Maxine is actually asking or saying she's going to call on the president and the Department of Justice, who already looks at all of us, white, Christian, male, gun owner, already looks at all of us as being the enemy. What they call them, stateside domestic terrorists or whatever you want to call it. So she's literally admitting that she is going to ask the DOJ and the president to look into us. Those of us that are training, she says. What is the DOJ and the president going to do if Trump loses, she says, because of us? What have we done to make this old wildebeest here think that we're going to do something? Now, granted, if Trump loses, everyone's going to know that it was rigged, right? You got even blacks and Hispanics who are turning against the Biden administration and Democrats because they've seen that they've been treated as slaves all these years and that the Democrat Party wants to keep them enslaved. So they're losing their slaves right now. Their slaves are waking up and taking their own shackles off and moving somewhere else, and it's scaring them. This old troglodyte is doing her best to stir things up where nothing exists. There is nothing that exists. In fact, if we want to look at some numbers, almost as many people, just a little bit less, are equally concerned that Biden loses or Trump loses as far as going into the next civil war, which I do not believe. First of all, you have to have two sides willing to fight in order to have a civil war. I don't think there's enough people on either side who would do that. And I don't think there's enough people on their side capable of doing that. The testosterone level is so low in fighting age men these days on that side, I just don't see there being any opposition. I don't see there being that real legitimate threat. I'm actually kind of shocked that these polling numbers are this high. Now, let me just say this about polls, and I said this before, and I have to say it again. Polls mean nothing. Polls are stupid. Polls are meant to get people talking, and in some cases, polls are meant to disseminate bad information to stir up one side or the other and get them to do something. A lot of times, polling people will poll in a particular area knowing what the result will be. If it's the negative result that they need to fire up or incite the other side that's not doing enough and not being as active enough and mobile enough as they could. In other words, let's say a polling organization wants to fire up the Trump voters, right? They may say, oh my God, looks like the gap is closing. Trump was destroying Biden in previous polling numbers, and that gap is closing fast, meant to mobilize the people out there that may have an intention of voting for voting for Trump, or people who are on the fence who are taking part in this horrible economy. The people on the fence who used to pay $2 for a bag of Doritos now are paying almost $8 for the same bag of Doritos. Those people and the people who are trying to put gas in their car to go work two jobs, regardless of political party, are seeing how disastrous the economy is right now. Those people see all that. So those people might be the ones on the fence, and you put out some kind of a fake poll to get them fired up and to go vote, right? They do this all the time. In fact, that's how and why a lot of people got so mad during the previous election when Biden allegedly won, where they called Arizona so early. I remember, I believe it was 2012 or 2016, I don't recall which one, where part of Florida is in a different time zone. The Panhandle is in the Central Time Zone, and the rest of Florida is in the Eastern Time Zone. And they called Florida before polling booths had officially closed in the Panhandle of Florida. And everybody was upset about that because that can sway it. That can make people stay home. Maybe somebody was working a second shift and they wanted to go vote, and they said, oh, well, they just called Florida. Why should I go vote? So a lot of times polls are a lot like that. You know, polls are meant to move the needle a little bit. So when you see these Civil War polls, honestly, my personal feeling is that those Civil War polls about one side winning or the other is really meant to stoke and divide even more, stoke fear and divide people even more. I think Americans in general as a whole have a lot more in common than what the political parties and the news media want to admit. I think most of us probably have a lot in the middle that we agree on, and the things that we don't agree on are not enough to make us go into a civil war. The things that would spike, in my opinion, any kind of a legitimate threat of a civil war is if we see, and hear me out on this, if you see Trump continuing to have 30,000 to 50,000 people at a rally who are voting for him or want to vote for him and support him, and you continue to see the Democrat Party, whether it's the pro-terrorist party that's out there or the pro-terrorist Democrats out there who don't want to vote for Biden now because he doesn't wholeheartedly support the terrorist organization Hamas, or whether it's the Democrats out there who are, again, experiencing this horrible economy of ours. But you're going to probably see, if Biden has any rallies whatsoever, they will be scripted. They will have actors, and I mean that, actors. You can say the word actor is a conspiracy theory type thing. An actor is no more than a person told what to do. We saw a video last week of Biden going into, naturally, an ice cream shop, and the Secret Service agents or Biden's handlers came up and said, hey, Biden is going to come up here and buy an ice cream cone, and he's going to tip you. Take the tip. Well, that person is now an actor, right? They've been told what to do. What they're doing is maybe not what their natural reaction would have been. So they're acting based on the instructions that they've been given. So that's what I mean when I say actors. So I believe Biden's, if again he goes out and campaigns, it will be all crafted and actors will be involved in that. You will see people who have been told what to do, because we've all seen the pictures of Biden's entourage rolling through places like Georgia, wherever, and the people who are not actors are standing on cars, curbside, signs, and everything else they can get on and flipping the bird to Biden's caravan as it goes by. So they have to craft these campaign events, if you will, that Biden's going to be a part of. So that's what I'm saying. When people see how lazy the Biden supporters are and how unfired up they are, how few they are, how just dead in general they are inside and at all these little rallies and stuff, and then they see the fire in the Trump supporters and all that. If it comes out with the same results again, I'm not saying there's going to be a civil war. I'm saying that is the beginning of a lot of people giving up on the voting process, a lot of people losing complete faith in what goes on behind the scenes, a lot of people that will not take part. And I think the Democrats want this, but will not take part in the voting process again. Make no mistake, both sides play into this whole uniparty type thing. I realize that. But anyone out there who thinks that there is no difference between Donald Trump's leadership and Donald Trump's results when he was president versus Joe Biden's, we have had a firsthand look at both. Anyone who believes they are a feather or bird of the same feather or whichever is crazy, ignorant, or stupid. Because everything was better for me and for you. If you're a Biden supporter, you might want to lie to yourself and lie to me and say that you're better off now, but we know better, right? We do know better. truth be told, the only people who are better off inside the United States right now is the illegal aliens coming in across the border. Those people are doing really good compared to when Trump was in office. Every one of us, and I don't care what your political party was, everyone was better off under Trump. Again, we've had a 4-year run on both guys, and nobody can with a straight face say they're better off today if they are an honest American, right? So anyone that's telling you they're better off today is either an illegal alien or a liar. And that is an absolute fact, because nothing is better now. Fuel, groceries, every single thing you do. If you have not noticed an absolute doubling and spike in your grocery bill, then you ain't buying groceries. Somebody else is in your house, because we all see it. The fuel as well. This is an absolute disaster of an administration. And I don't see any other way that it's not an absolute freaking landslide when it comes to who wins in November. And I think that is going to be the thing that is going to be the final wedge that's going to drive people out of the voting process if Biden somehow manages to win.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.